The great hall of Centrum Prime stretched so high that clouds formed near its ceiling. Ambassador stood at the center of the chamber, her hands clasped behind her back. Above her, floating on gravity platforms, sat representatives from 47 alien civilizations. They looked down at her like gods judging a mortal. Had prepared for this moment for 3 years. Earth had been a member of the Galactic Council for 200 years, but only as a provisional member. Today, she would ask for full membership. Today, humanity would finally be recognized as equals. She pressed a button on her wrist device. Holographic displays filled the air around her, showing everything humanity had achieved. Medical technology that had cured diseases across 12 worlds. Cultural exchanges that had enriched alien societies. 2 centuries of peaceful cooperation and friendship. Honored council members, began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Humanity has proven its worth. We have contributed to galactic society in countless ways. We have followed every rule, paid every tax, and fulfilled every obligation. We respectfully request full membership in this council. Silence filled the hall. Then from the highest platform a sound erupted. Laughter. The Emperor, a creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a scorpion, slapped his armored leg. "Did you hear that? The humans think they're ready." His voice boomed through the chamber, and soon other aliens joined in the laughter. His jaw tightened, but she remained still. An ancient, its body like a floating mass of crystals, spoke next. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. 200 years and they still don't understand. Provisional members don't become full members. Not in 500 years. Not in 1,000. Earth's place is to serve, not to lead. "But we've met every requirement," protested, "according to the Charter." "The Charter," the Emperor interrupted. "We wrote the Charter, human. We decide what it means." A new hologram appeared in the center of the hall, replacing presentation. It showed humans performing various tasks, but the images were manipulated. Humans appeared clumsy, stupid, weak. The data displayed showed humanity ranking last in every category: intelligence, strength, technology, culture. Knew immediately that the data was false. She had seen the real statistics. But as she looked around the chamber, she realized that many of the smaller alien species were nodding along, accepting the lies as truth. "As you can see," they continued, "humans are simply not evolved enough for full membership. Perhaps in time, with our guidance, they might improve." The Emperor smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "However, we recognize that Earth has been useful. Therefore, we propose new terms. Earth will remain provisional for another 500 years. During this time, tribute payments will increase by 40%. 40%, couldn't hide her shock. Our people are already struggling to meet the current payments. "Then work harder," the Emperor said simply. "Furthermore, Earth's embassy will be relocated to a more appropriate location." A map appeared, showing Centrum Prime's layout. A red dot marked their new embassy location. Stomach sank. It was in the waste processing sector, literally next to the garbage facilities of the planet. "You can't be serious," she whispered. "We are completely serious," they replied. "Also, Earth's minimal voting privileges are hereby suspended. You may attend council meetings, but only to listen and obey." Felt her face burn with shame and anger. Back on Earth, she knew that Admiral Menu Park was watching this broadcast. Every human colony in the galaxy was watching. Billions of people were seeing their representative humiliated. "This is wrong," said, her voice shaking now. "We've done nothing to deserve this treatment." The Emperor leaned forward on his platform. "You exist. That is enough. Know your place, human. Be grateful we allow you in the council at all." The other aliens murmured their agreement. A few of the smaller species looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up in humanity's defense. They were too afraid of the powerful empires that controlled the council. Stood there for a long moment, surrounded by the mocking laughter and dismissive sneers of beings who saw her as nothing more than an insect. She thought about all the work humanity had done, all the hopes they had carried, all the dignity they had tried to maintain. "I understand," she finally said, her voice cold and quiet. "Earth will comply with your decision." "Good," the Emperor said, dismissed. Turned and walked out of the great hall. Her footsteps echoed in the silence that followed. Behind her, the aliens had already moved on to other business, forgetting about humanity as quickly as they had humiliated it. Back on Earth, Admiral Minu Park sat in the command center of the United Earth Defense Force. He had watched every second of the broadcast. Around him, officers and officials stood in stunned silence. Some had tears in their eyes, others shook with barely contained rage. Minu slowly stood up from his chair. He was a tall man, his hair streaked with gray, his face lined with the experience of 50 years of military service. He had fought in the colony wars. He had negotiated peace treaties. He had spent decades believing that patience and diplomacy would win humanity its place in the galaxy. He had been wrong. "Send the recall order," Minu said quietly. "All human diplomats, all embassy staff. I want every human off Council worlds within 48 hours. "Sir," his aide, Captain Lee, looked confused. "Are we withdrawing from the Council?" "Not yet," Minu replied. "First, I want to talk to some people. Get me Dr. Sora, get me General, get me Intelligence Director Shin, and get me the files on Project Nightfall." His eyes widened. "Sir, Project Nightfall is classified beyond." "I know what it is," Minu cut him off. "And I think it's time we stopped hiding what humanity is capable of." He looked at the screen, which still showed the Galactic Council building on Centrum Prime. "They wanted to embarrass us. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans are weak and stupid. They wanted to prove we're not worthy of respect." Minu's hand curled into a fist. "We're going to teach them something. When you humiliate humanity, when you push us down and tell us we're nothing, you don't make us weaker." His voice grew harder. "You remind us what we're capable of when we fight back." Around the command center, officers began to straighten. The despair in the room transformed into something else. Something dangerous. Something that had been sleeping in humanity for 200 years while they played the role of peaceful, civilized council members. "They wanted to see what humanity can do," Minu said. "Let's show them." On Centrum Prime, Ambassador packed her belongings from the embassy. She received the recall order and felt relief wash over her. As she took one last look at the city outside her window, she allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The emergency session of Earth's United Government convened within 6 hours of the humiliation at Centrum Prime. Leaders from every continent, every major colony, and every space station gathered in the chamber deep beneath Geneva. The room hummed with angry voices and tense energy. Chancellor Minu Park stood at the podium, waiting for silence. When the room finally quieted, he spoke with a voice that carried centuries of human determination. "We have two choices," Minu said. "We can accept our place as inferior beings, continuing to serve the Council for the next 500 years and beyond, or we can choose a different path." "What path?" someone called out. "They control the entire galaxy. They have technology we can't match. They have 47 civilizations to our one." Minu smiled grimly. "That's what they think." He pressed a button on the podium. "Dr. Sora, please present Project Nightfall." A woman in her 40s appeared on the main screen. Dr. Sora had been working in the most secret research facility on Earth for the past 15 years. Very few people knew what she did there. "Members of the government," Dr. Sora began, "for the past 2 centuries, while we played the role of peaceful, primitive members of the Galactic Council, we were also doing something else. We were learning, we were studying, and we were preparing." Images filled the screens around the chamber. Sleek black ships that looked like shadows given form. weapons that glowed with strange energy, technology that seemed impossible. When humanity joined the Galactic Council, our leaders made a secret decision, Dr. Sora continued. Never again would we be helpless. Never again would we be unprepared. Every alien ship that visited Earth, we scanned it. Every technology they showed us, we studied it. Every weakness they revealed, we recorded it. She brought up a new image, showing a ship that seemed to fade in and out of existence. The Wraith-class stealth vessel, completely invisible to Council sensors. We developed quantum shielding technology by studying the patterns in their own sensor networks and finding the gaps. Another image appeared, this time showing a weapon that pulsed with blue light. Quantum displacement weapons. They phase through alien shields as if those shields don't exist. We created them by understanding the fundamental flaws in Council shield technology. They built their shields to stop the weapons they knew. They never imagined something like this. A government representative stood up, her face pale. Dr. Sora, are you telling us we've been secretly building weapons while pretending to be peaceful? Yes, Dr. Sora said simply. And not just weapons. Our FTL drives are 3 generations ahead of anything the Council has. Our artificial intelligence systems combine human creativity with cold logic in ways alien minds couldn't imagine. Our medical technology that we shared with them, that was the primitive version. We kept the real advances for ourselves. General stepped forward. He was a large man with scars on his face from the colony wars decades ago. I've been coordinating with our military forces across all human space. Every colony has been training. Every commercial ship has hidden weapon systems. Every merchant captain is a trained combat officer. He pulled up a star map showing all human-controlled space. Red dots marked military installations. There were thousands of them, far more than the Council knew about. The aliens think we have maybe 50 military ships, General said. We actually have 5,000. They think our weapons are primitive. They're actually more advanced than anything in the galaxy. They think we're weak because we've never fought them. His smile was cold and dangerous. They're about to learn that humans never forgot how to wage war. We just stopped showing them what we could do. Intelligence Director Shin took over the presentation. She was a quiet woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I've been running spy operations in Council space for 30 years. Every human diplomat was also an intelligence agent. Every student we sent to alien academies was gathering information. Every cultural exchange was a reconnaissance mission. She displayed files on every major alien species, detailed analyses of their military capabilities, their political structures, their weaknesses. The Empire has the biggest fleet, but they haven't fought a real war in 2,000 years. Their training is ceremonial. Their tactics are outdated. Their commanders have never experienced actual combat. Another file appeared. The collective has powerful weapons, but their species thinks slowly. They take hours to make decisions that humans make in seconds. In a fast-moving battle, they can't adapt quickly enough. File after file showed the same pattern. The Council species had grown soft, comfortable, and arrogant. They believed they were superior, so they stopped improving. They stopped training. They stopped preparing. Meanwhile, continued, humanity spent 200 years getting stronger. Every year we improved our technology. Every year we trained harder. Every year we prepared for the possibility that one day we would need to stand on our own. Chancellor Minyu let the information sink in. Around the chamber, shock was transforming into something else. Hope, determination, anger finding a purpose. The Council made a mistake today, Minyu said. They humiliated us in front of the entire galaxy. They showed everyone that they see us as nothing. They think this will break our spirit. They think we'll accept our place and obey. He paused, looking at every face in the chamber. They don't understand humanity. Throughout our history, we've always been at our most dangerous when someone tried to push us down. We came from a planet where everything tried to kill us. We survived ice ages and droughts. We climbed from caves to space in just a few thousand years. We conquered our own world not because we were the strongest or the fastest but because we never gave up. The chamber was completely silent now. Every person present felt the weight of the moment. They were deciding the future of their entire species. I propose we withdraw from the Galactic Council, Minyu said. I propose we declare independence. I propose we show the galaxy what humanity truly is. They'll attack us, someone said. The moment we leave the council, they'll send their fleets to punish us. I know, Minyu replied. I'm counting on it. Let them send their fleets. Let them bring their armies. Let them try to force us back into submission. His voice grew harder. And when they do, we'll show them that humanity doesn't submit, we fight. A vote was called. One by one, hands rose around the chamber. The decision was unanimous. Earth would leave the Galactic Council. Earth would stand alone. Earth would go to war if necessary. The next day, a message was transmitted to Centrum Prime. It was short and simple. To the Galactic Council, Earth hereby withdraws from Council membership, effective immediately. All Council ships and personnel have 72 hours to leave human-controlled space. After that period, any Council presence will be considered an act of war. Humanity asks only to be left alone. If you respect that, there will be peace. If you don't, there will be consequences. Choose wisely. On Centrum Prime, the Emperor read the message and laughed so hard that his guards worried he might injure himself. The humans think they can threaten us. Prepare the Third Grand Armada. We'll crush them in a week and teach every other species what happens when you defy the Council. The collective agreed. Send overwhelming force. Destroy their military completely. Let them remember their place. Across the galaxy, the Council's military machine began to move. Thousands of ships prepared for war. Millions of soldiers their weapons. The Council had ruled the galaxy for. They would not tolerate defiance from primitive humans. But in the secret facilities hidden throughout human space, Dr. Sora and her teams made final preparations. The Wraith ships powered up their engines. The quantum weapons charged. The AI systems came online. General stood in the command center, watching the alien fleets gather on the sensors. They think this will be easy, he said to his officers. They think we're helpless. Captain Lee checked his weapons systems one last time. Should we be worried, General? Smiled. No, Captain. We should be excited. Humanity has been holding back for 200 years. Now we get to show the galaxy what we really are. The countdown began. 72 hours until the deadline. 72 hours until everything changed. The Third Grand Armada of the Empire emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 500 capital ships, each larger than a city. 2,000 support vessels surrounding them like a swarm of steel insects. It was a force designed to intimidate, to overwhelm, to crush any resistance before it could begin. Admiral, a veteran who had commanded ceremonial fleets for 300 years, looked at them with satisfaction. The human colony of should be visible by now, a small settlement on the third planet. It would be the first to fall, an example to the rest of humanity. Scan the colony, ordered, prepare weapons, send the surrender demand. The scanner officer studied his displays, his expression confused. Admiral, I'm not detecting any life signs. No power signatures, no ships. The colony appears to be abandoned. Frowned, abandoned. That's impossible. Intelligence reports showed 3 million humans living there just 2 days ago. I'm telling you what the sensors show, sir. The colony is empty. A cold feeling crept down spine. Something was wrong. He had enough experience to recognize when something felt off, even if he'd never faced real combat. Raise shields, he ordered. All ships to battle alert. Scan the entire system for. The universe exploded around them. Ships appeared from nowhere, materializing inside the formation. They were black as the void of space, shaped like daggers, and they moved with impossible speed. The Council sensors hadn't detected them because they simply couldn't detect them. Commander O sat in the cockpit of his Wraith fighter, his hands steady on the controls despite his racing heart. This was the moment they'd trained for, the moment humanity stopped hiding. "All wings fire at will," he said calmly into his communicator. The quantum displacement weapons activated. Blue light lanced from the human ships, passing through the shields as if they were made of paper. The first capital ship buckled and exploded, its reactor breached. Then another. Then another. Screamed orders, but his fleet was in chaos. They couldn't target what they couldn't see. Their weapons fired blindly into space while the human ships danced around them, precise and deadly. "How are they doing this?" shouted. "Our shields should be impenetrable." His tactical officer was pale, all four of his eyes wide with fear. "Sir, their weapons are phasing through our shields. They're operating on a quantum level our technology can't block, and our sensors can't lock onto their ships at all." Squadrons swept through the enemy formation like wolves among sheep. Every shot found its target. Every pass left burning wreckage behind. They tried to fight back, but they were fighting blind against an enemy they couldn't see. "Target the command ships," ordered. "Let's cut the head off this snake." The Wraith fighters converged on its flagship. The massive ship tried to maneuver, but it was too slow, too ungainly. Built for intimidation, not combat. The quantum weapons tore through its engines, its weapons arrays, its bridge. His last thought before the explosion took him was that he had underestimated the humans. Badly. 15 minutes after the battle began, it was over. The third Grand Armada of the Empire was destroyed. 500 capital ships reduced to debris. 2,000 support vessels either destroyed or fleeing in panic. And the human forces had not lost a single ship. On Earth, Admiral Minu Park watched the battle reports with grim satisfaction. "That's one. Now comes the hard part." All across human space, the attack had been coordinated to the second. Captain Lee led a fleet that emerged from stealth at Talon Station, a major Council trade hub. The station's defenses activated immediately, but the human ships were already too close, their weapons already firing. "Attention Talon Station," broadcast. "Surrender immediately and no one will be harmed. Resist and we will destroy you. You have 1 minute to decide." The station commander, unnamed, made the calculation quickly. The humans had already disabled half the station's weapons. More human ships were appearing every second. Fighting would mean death. "We surrender," said, its crystal body dimming with shame. 3 Council trade stations fell to humanity in the first hour of the war. The pattern was the same each time: overwhelming force, impossible technology, and an offer of mercy for those who surrendered. Meanwhile, Captain Bay led her Marine forces in the most daring operation of the opening attacks. A diplomatic vessel, the Pride of Crystals, was traveling through neutral space when human ships surrounded it. Stood in the boarding pod, checking her weapon one last time. Her Marines were silent, focused, ready. "Remember," she told them, "we're here to capture, not to kill. Show them that humans can be civilized even in war." The boarding pods attached to the ship's hull. Cutting tools sliced through the metal. Marines poured through the breach, moving with practiced efficiency. The guards tried to resist, but human weapons stunned them before they could fire a shot. Within 5 minutes, the entire ship was under human control. Not a single death on either side. Stood before the ambassador, a massive crystalline being that pulsed with indignant light. "You are prisoners of Earth," said calmly. "You will be treated with respect according to the laws of war. No one will torture you. No one will humiliate you. You will simply wait until this conflict is resolved." The ambassador stared at her in confusion. "Why not kill us? We are your enemies." "Because we're not barbarians," replied. "The Council called us primitive. We're going to show the galaxy what humanity really values." Across 20 star systems, human forces struck at military targets with surgical precision, but they made a point of avoiding civilian casualties. They didn't bombard cities. They didn't attack colonies. They destroyed weapons and ships and military installations, but they spared anyone who surrendered. And most importantly, they broadcast everything. Every battle, every captured enemy treated with dignity, every offer of mercy accepted. The images spread across the galaxy through the Council's own communication networks. On Centrum Prime, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The chamber that had been filled with laughter just days before now echoed with angry shouting and fearful whispers. The Emperor slammed his fist on his platform. "This is impossible. The humans destroyed our third armada. They captured our stations. How did they get this technology?" "They've been hiding their true capabilities," the collective hissed. "For 200 years, they played weak while they developed weapons we cannot counter." A representative from a small species that had always been pushed around by the bigger empires, spoke up nervously. "Perhaps we should negotiate. The humans are offering surrender terms. They're treating prisoners well. Maybe we can reach a peaceful." "Peaceful?" the Emperor roared. "They destroyed 500 of our ships. They humiliated us. We will crush them completely." But even as he spoke, doubt crept through the chamber. The mighty Third Armada had been destroyed in 15 minutes. How many more human ships were out there? What other weapons did they have hidden? A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It was Admiral Menu Park, his face calm and serious. "Galactic Council," he said, "this is your warning. We did not want this war. We asked only for respect. You chose to humiliate us instead. Now you see the consequence of that choice." He gestured and images appeared around him. The destroyed fleet, the captured stations, the prisoners being treated humanely in human facilities. "We are not monsters," Menu continued. "We will not slaughter civilians. We will not destroy your worlds. We are targeting only military assets. Anyone who surrenders will be treated fairly. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves." The collective spoke, its voice like breaking glass. "You cannot win. We will mobilize every species, every fleet. We will bring 10,000 ships to Earth and end this rebellion." Menu smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Then bring them. Bring every ship you have. Bring every soldier. Bring everything you've got." His eyes hardened. "And we'll show you what happens when you push humanity too far." The hologram vanished. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some demanded immediate massive retaliation. Others counseled caution. A few quietly wondered if perhaps they had made a terrible mistake. The Emperor stood, his massive frame radiating fury. "We will not be intimidated by primitives. Send word to every council member. Mobilize the Grand Coalition fleet. Every species must contribute. We will assemble the largest military force in 2,000 years, and we will crush Earth completely." Orders went out across the galaxy. Ships began to gather. Armies prepared for deployment. The greatest military force ever assembled in galactic history began to form, all aimed at one target: Earth. In his command center, Menu watched the enemy fleets converging. Captain stood beside him, worried. "Sir, there are thousands of ships heading our way, maybe tens of thousands. Can we really fight them all?" Menu turned to him, and for the first time since the war began, he allowed himself a real smile. "Captain, we just destroyed their best fleet in 15 minutes with minimal effort. Now they're going to bring everything they have directly to us." He looked back at the star map. "They're doing exactly what we want them to do. Phase 2 is about to begin." And deep in the Sol system, Engineer made final adjustments to the defense network that would change everything. The Grand Coalition fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 10,000 ships, 47 different species, all united in their determination to punish humanity for its defiance. It was the largest military force assembled in 2,000 years of galactic history. The fleet commander was a general named, chosen to replace the fallen. He looked at the blue planet in the distance and felt satisfaction. The humans would see this fleet and understand their mistake. They would beg for mercy. All ships advance formation, ordered. Prepare to bombard the third planet. We will destroy their military facilities first, then demand complete surrender. The massive fleet began to move forward, a wall of steel and weapons advancing on Earth like an unstoppable tide. They expected desperate defenses, panicked scrambling, maybe a few brave but futile attacks. They got something entirely different. The first ship to cross the asteroid belt simply vanished. One moment it was there, a massive battle cruiser. The next moment, nothing remained but a rapidly expanding cloud of debris. "What just happened?" demanded. "Report." "Sir, I don't know. The ship just exploded. I didn't see any weapons fire. I didn't see." 3 more ships exploded, then 10, then 50. The fleet stopped advancing, confusion spreading through the ranks. Their sensors showed nothing. No enemy ships, no missiles, no visible weapons of any kind, but ships kept exploding. Engineer sat in a control center deep inside Earth's moon, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. Around him, technicians monitored the systems he had spent 5 years building. The Sol defense net was finally active. "Target clusters 4 and 7, said calmly. "Phase the mines in, fire, phase them out." All throughout the solar system, weapons platforms hidden in asteroids activated. Mines that existed in subspace phased into normal reality just long enough to fire, then disappeared again. Automated drones that had been waiting for years sprang to life, hacking into enemy systems and turning their weapons against each other. The Grand Coalition fleet was sailing into the most sophisticated trap ever designed. Watched in horror as his fleet began to tear itself apart. Ships exploded from invisible attacks. Others suddenly turned and fired on their own allies, their systems compromised by human cyber warfare. The perfect formation dissolved into chaos. "Shields, raise all shields," he screamed. But the shields did nothing against weapons that phased through them, or mines that materialized inside their defensive perimeters. Admiral Park watched the battle from Earth's command center. The enemy fleet was exactly where he wanted them, trapped in a killing field of humanity's own design. But he didn't want genocide. He wanted something else. "Open a channel," Minu ordered. "Broadcast to all enemy ships." His face appeared on every screen in the Coalition fleet. "Attention Coalition forces. You came here to destroy us. Instead, you're dying in a trap you never saw coming. Your technology can't detect our weapons. Your shields can't stop our attacks. Your numbers mean nothing against our systems." He paused, letting that sink in. "But humanity is not barbaric. We don't want to kill you. We want respect. So I'm offering you one chance: surrender. Power down your weapons, shut down your shields, and signal your submission. We will guide you to safe zones. We will treat you with dignity. We will let you live." Stared at the screen, rage and fear warring in his chest. Surrender to primitives. The shame would be unbearable, but more ships were exploding every second. Thousands of his soldiers were dying. "Or," Minu continued, his voice hardening, "you can keep fighting, keep dying. Keep throwing your people into a battle you cannot win. The choice is yours. You have 2 minutes to decide." In the Coalition fleet, panic spread. Some captains wanted to keep fighting, to die with honor. But others, especially those from smaller species who had been forced into this war by the great empires, made different calculations. The first ship to surrender was a vessel. Its captain powered down weapons and broadcast a white flag signal. A human ship, sleek and black, approached carefully and guided it to a safe orbit around Mars. Then a ship surrendered, then a vessel, then more and more, like a dam breaking. Even some ships, their commanders realizing that death served no purpose, chose to live. Within an hour, half the coalition fleet had surrendered. The other half scattered, fleeing back to their home systems in disarray. The great invasion force that was supposed to crush humanity had been destroyed without a single human ship engaging in direct combat. Minyu watched the surrendered ships being guided to designated areas. "Treat them well," he ordered. "Medical care for the wounded, food and water for all. Show them that humanity keeps its promises." Captain Lee coordinated the massive operation of processing thousands of prisoners. It was overwhelming, but the humans had planned for this. Facilities had been prepared. Medical staff stood ready. Translators were available for dozens of languages. Pilot Han led her squadron as they escorted the surrendered ships. She was young, barely 25, but she was one of the best pilots humanity had. She remembered watching Ambassador's humiliation, remembered the rage she had felt. Now, as she guided a damaged alien vessel to safety, she felt something different. Not rage, not triumph, something more complex. "All clear for docking," she radioed to the alien ship. "Medical teams are waiting for your wounded." The alien captain's voice came back, filled with confusion. "Why are you helping us? We came to destroy you." "Thought about that. Because we're not you," she finally said. "We fight when we must, but we don't forget our humanity." Back on Centrum Prime, the news of the Coalition fleet's defeat sent shockwaves through the Council. The chamber was quieter now, the arrogance drained away by fear. But not everyone was fearful. A representative from a small insect-like species, stood on her platform. Her name was Liaison Park, and she had been chosen to speak for several smaller species. "Honored Council," said, her voice amplified across the chamber. "Perhaps it is time we acknowledge the truth. The humans were right, we have been oppressed. The great empires control everything. They dictate terms, they take what they want. They treat smaller species as servants." The Emperor glared at her. "How dare you speak such?" "I dare because the humans showed us something," interrupted, surprising even herself with her boldness. "They showed us that resistance is possible. They showed us that the great empires are not invincible. They showed us that we don't have to accept humiliation." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Representatives from and dozens of other smaller species nodded in agreement. For too long they had been silent, but humanity's defiance had awakened something in them. The collective pulsed with anger. "You would side with the rebels. You would betray the council." "We would side with justice," a representative said, standing to join. "We would side with equality. We would side with a galaxy where all species are respected, not just the powerful ones." A rebellion was forming, right in the heart of the Galactic Council itself. On Earth, Ambassador met with representatives from the smaller alien species who had been secretly communicating with humanity. They met in a simple room, without the grandeur of council chambers, just people talking honestly. "We want to help," a diplomat said. "We want to change the galaxy, but we're afraid. The empires are still powerful." Smiled gently. "Fear is natural, but remember a few weeks ago, everyone thought humanity was weak. Everyone thought we would accept our place forever. Sometimes change requires courage." She looked at each of them in turn. "We're not asking you to fight. We're asking you to speak. Tell the truth about how the council really works. Share the stories of how the empires treat you. Let the galaxy see that this isn't about humanity versus everyone else. It's about justice versus oppression." The representatives nodded, understanding beginning to dawn. This wasn't just a war, it was a revolution. But the revolution would have to wait, because at that moment, alarms began to sound across Earth's defense network. New ships were approaching. Not a fleet this time, but something smaller and faster. The Emperor, maddened by humiliation and defeat, had gathered his personal guard. Elite soldiers, the best warriors the Empire had. and he was leading them personally to Earth's surface. If the humans wanted war, he would give them war. Not in space, where they had their tricks and traps, but on the ground in close combat where they had fought for thousands of years. Generals stood in the command center, watching the enemy ships descend. They were heading for the military district outside New Seoul. The Emperor wanted a ground battle. Smiled grimly. He wants to fight us on the ground. He wants close combat. He turned to his officers. Send the message to all units. The enemy is landing. We're going to teach them something. Captain Bay received the order at her base. She gathered her soldiers, checking weapons and armor. These were veterans, hardened by training and some by actual combat in the colony wars. "Listen up," said to her troops. "The enemy thinks they're warriors. They think they're tough. They're about to learn something that every species in the galaxy seems to forget." She chambered a round in her rifle. "Humans conquered our own planet. We fought each other for thousands of years. We built weapons and tactics in blood and survival. We know war in ways these aliens never will." She looked at her soldiers, seeing the determination in their eyes. Show them what happens when you bring a ground fight to humanity. Show them why Earth gave birth to the most dangerous soldiers in the galaxy. The Imperial Guard landed on Earth's surface. The Emperor himself emerged from his command ship, massive and armored, confident in his superiority. General met him on the battlefield, smaller and older, but carrying the weight of 50 years of military experience. "You wanted to see humanity fight," said quietly. "You're about to learn why we conquered our own planet before we reached the stars." The battle for Earth's surface was about to begin. The Imperial Guard spread across the plains outside New Seoul, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. 5,000 of the Empire's finest warriors, each one trained since birth for combat. At their center stood the Emperor himself, a massive figure in ornate battle armor that had been passed down through his family for generations. General stood a kilometer away with his forces, 3,000 human soldiers. They looked smaller, less impressive. Their armor was simpler, but General knew something the Emperor didn't. Humanity had been fighting wars since before they discovered fire. War was written into their DNA. "All units," said calmly into his communicator. "Remember your training, remember who we are. Show them what Earth breeds." The Emperor raised his weapon and roared a battle cry that echoed across the field. His guard charged forward, a wall of armored warriors that had never been defeated. Watch them come, fire at will. Human weapons opened up with devastating precision. Rail guns, plasma rifles, smart missiles that found gaps in armor. The first wave fell, their shields overwhelmed by weapons designed specifically to counter Council technology. But the were brave had to admit that. They kept coming despite their losses. They reached human lines and the battle became close combat. This was where the Emperor expected to dominate. Were larger, stronger, with natural weapons like claws and armored hides. In hand-to-hand fighting, they should have been unstoppable. They weren't. Captain Bay faced a warrior twice her size. The alien swung at her with claws that could tear through steel, dodged with movements too fast for the alien to track. She had been training since she was 5 years old. Combat was muscle memory now. Her weapon fired 3 times, each shot perfectly placed to exploit weaknesses in the alien's armor. They fell, confused about what had just happened. All across the battlefield, the same scene repeated. Human soldiers fought with tactics refined over thousands of years. They used terrain. They worked in coordinated teams. They adapted to every situation instantly. They fought with strength and courage, but they fought like warriors from a species that hadn't experienced real war in 2. Their techniques were ceremonial, designed for honor duels and parade grounds. Against humans who had studied warfare their entire history, they were outmatched. The battle raged for 3 days. They kept fighting, their pride and honor demanding they never surrender. But slowly, inevitably, they were pushed back, not by superior strength or size, but by superior skill and experience. On the third day, as the sun rose over the battlefield, the Emperor found himself surrounded. His guard was gone, defeated, or captured. He stood alone, wounded and exhausted, facing General. "Kill me," the Emperor said, his voice full of rage and humiliation. "I will not surrender." Lowered his weapon. "No." The Emperor stared at him in confusion. "What?" "You came to my planet to prove your superiority," said quietly. "You wanted to show the galaxy that humans were weak. Instead, you proved something else entirely." He gestured to the battlefield. "Your warriors were brave. They fought with honor, but bravery isn't enough against opponents who have spent learning how to wage war." Held out his hand. "You're defeated, but I won't kill you, because humanity doesn't need to kill you to prove our point. We beat you fairly. Now live with that knowledge. Learn from it." The Emperor looked at the offered hand. Every instinct screamed at him to refuse, to die fighting. But he was also old enough to recognize wisdom when he heard it. Slowly, he reached out and took the human's hand. "I surrender," the Emperor said, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "The Empire surrenders." News of the Emperor's capture spread across the galaxy within hours. The mightiest military power in the Council had been defeated on the ground by human forces. The symbolism was devastating to Council prestige. On Centrum Prime, the Galactic Council held another emergency session. But this time, the atmosphere was different. The arrogance was gone. Fear and uncertainty had taken its place. The collective spoke first. "We have lost 3 major fleets. We have lost thousands of ships. We have lost our Emperor. The humans have proven they can defeat us in space and on the ground. I propose we negotiate peace." "Peace?" A smaller council member stood up, an alien from a species that rarely spoke. "You want peace now, after you started this war, after you humiliated humanity and forced them to fight." More voices joined in. The smaller species that had always been quiet were suddenly speaking up. Years of frustration and suppressed anger came pouring out. Liaison stood on her platform, watching the council chamber descend into chaos. This was the moment. The old order was crumbling. A new one could be built from its ruins. Ambassador arrived at Centrum Prime 3 days later. She walked into the council chamber, her head held high. This was different from the last time she had stood here. Then, she had been begging for recognition. Now, she was here as the representative of a power that had defeated the galaxy's greatest military forces. The collective spoke, its voice subdued. "Ambassador, we wish to discuss peace terms." "Good," said simply. "Because humanity never wanted this war. We wanted respect. We wanted equality. We wanted to be treated as people, not as servants." She pulled up holographic displays, showing images from the war. But these weren't images of battles. They were images of prisoners being treated well, of wounded aliens receiving medical care in human facilities, of captured soldiers being fed and sheltered. "Look at these images," said. "Look at how humanity treats its enemies. We could have killed every prisoner. We could have bombarded your worlds. We could have shown you the same cruelty you showed us." She paused. "We chose not to, because we believe that civilization means something. It means treating others with dignity, even in war." A representative spoke up. "What are your terms, Ambassador?" Took a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would define the next era of galactic civilization. "We propose a new galactic charter," she said. "A new federation built on different principles. First, all species are equal members. No more provisional status. No more superior and inferior civilizations. Every voice has equal weight." She brought up the full proposal. "Second, all major decisions require consensus, not domination by the powerful. Third, military forces must be transparent and limited to prevent any species from building forces for conquest. Fourth, cultural respect is mandatory. Every species' dignity must be protected. And fifth, said, her voice firm, any species can leave voluntarily. No one will be forced to stay. No one will be punished for choosing independence. The chamber was silent. It was everything the old council was not. It was revolutionary. And if we refuse, the collective asked quietly, then humanity remains independent, said. We go our own way, but I think others will join us. All the species that have been waiting for someone to stand up to the old empires. She looked around the chamber. You can keep your old council, keep your old ways, but it will be smaller, weaker, and eventually it will fall apart as more species choose freedom over oppression. Representatives began to whisper among themselves. The smaller species were clearly excited. Even some of the larger empires looked thoughtful. The old way had failed. Maybe it was time for something new. Dr. Sora appeared on a holographic display addressing the chamber. I want to add something. Humanity could have destroyed you completely. We have weapons we never used. Technology we kept hidden even during the war. She pulled up displays showing weapon systems that made even the battle-hardened veterans gasp. Planet-destroying devices, biological weapons, technologies that could wipe out entire species. We built these, Dr. Sora said quietly, because we learned the hard lesson of our own history. Never be helpless, never be unprepared. But we also learned another lesson. Having the power to destroy doesn't mean you should use it. She deactivated the displays. We chose restraint. We chose mercy. We chose to prove our worth through our actions, not through genocide. That's what we want this new federation to be based on. Power tempered by wisdom. Strength balanced by compassion. The vote took 2 days of debate. In the end, 32 species voted to join the new Galactic Federation under the proposed charter. 15 others voted to remain independent but agreed to peaceful relations. Only a few of the old empires tried to maintain the old council, but without their tributaries and vassals, they had little power. The empire, humbled by defeat, surprised everyone by voting to join the new federation. The emperor, released from captivity and returned to his people, gave a speech that would be remembered for generations. We were wrong, he said simply. We thought might made us right. We thought size and strength and military power made us superior. The humans taught us that true strength is knowing when not to use power. They defeated us, then showed us mercy. That is a lesson my people will never forget. 6 months after the war ended, the new Galactic Federation held its first session in a new chamber built on a neutral world. The old council building on Centrum Prime was converted into a museum, a reminder of how civilizations could go wrong when power was not balanced with justice. Admiral Menu Park stood on the observation deck of the Federation headquarters, watching ships from dozens of species dock peacefully. Ships beside human vessels, ships near frigates, former enemies learning to work together. Ambassador joined him, looking out at the same view. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. The war, the lives lost. Menu thought about that for a long moment. We didn't start the war. They did when they chose humiliation over respect. We just finished it. He gestured to the ships outside. But look at what came from it. A galaxy where every species has a voice, where might doesn't make right, where smaller civilizations don't have to live in fear. Nodded slowly. They tried to embarrass us, tried to show the galaxy that humans were nothing. And instead, Menu said with a slight smile, we showed the galaxy what humanity really is. Not perfect, not peaceful by nature, but capable of great things when pushed, capable of restraint when we have power, capable of building instead of just destroying. A human ship and a ship docked side by side below them. Crews from both vessels waved to each other, beginning to build friendships that would have been impossible just months before. On Earth, a monument was erected in the center of New Sol, on the battlefield where the Imperial Guard had been defeated. It showed a human soldier and a warrior shaking hands, with an inscription in every language of the Federation. In the year 20,732, the galaxy tried to diminish humanity. Instead, humanity reminded the stars what determination looks like. May we never forget that true strength is not in domination, but in the courage to stand up for justice and the wisdom to show mercy when victory is won. General attended the monument's dedication. He was older now, ready to retire. As he looked at the statue, he thought about all the young soldiers who had fought under his command. Most had survived, some had not. "We changed the galaxy," Captain Bay said, standing beside him. She wore dress uniform now, medals on her chest earned through courage and skill. "No," said quietly. "We reminded the galaxy what it should have been all along, a place where all beings are respected, where justice matters more than power, where smaller doesn't mean lesser." He turned to look at her. "That's the real victory, not the battles we won, not the ships we destroyed, but the society we helped create." Far out in the galaxy, the new Federation began its work. Treaties were signed, trade routes opened, cultural exchanges flourished. The species that had once looked down on humanity now learned from them, not just their technology but their philosophy, their balance of strength and restraint, their refusal to be defined by others. And in the history files of 1,000 worlds, scholars would study the year 20,732. The year a species called humanity was embarrassed by a galactic council. The year they went to war rather than accept humiliation. The year they proved that true civilization is not about who has the biggest fleet or the strongest warriors. It's about having the strength to fight when necessary, and the wisdom to show mercy when the fighting is done. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way, but it had learned it well. And humanity, once dismissed as primitive and inferior, had earned something far more valuable than fear or domination. They had earned respect, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever.